Alright. Hopefully my microphone's working. Alright. Hopefully my microphone's working. Alright, there we go. It's working. Okay. Good way to start off the year. Alright, so with that out of the way, Happy New Year, everyone. Let's do a bit of a explanation, perhaps, if you're coming in for the first time to whatever it is I'm doing here. Let me get Eldon's character sheet out of the way and do a big zoom out on this big, beautiful map. Still don't know who did this map. This hex map is gorgeous. It is the 3rd edition era map of the Silver Marches, but all that being said, it's good enough for what we're doing here. So the idea behind this slow campaign is it's just something I come back to every now and then, and play out a cleric of whatever faith they might have as they go about their quests and whatnot throughout this region in the Forgotten Realms, this region being called the Silver Marches. This is where places like Silvery Moon are, and things like that. Thank you, Jamie. I'm looking forward to editing and getting the Asmodeus episode out, because editing is always a chore, and I cannot wait for it to be done and out into the wild for people to kind of listen to. But when we played our first session almost a year ago, I played a Cleric of Tempest. His name was Brynjar. He was human. The basic plot line behind his short-lived story was he woke up in a dungeon, he was knocked unconscious, trying to get his bearings as to where he was and what he was doing. He was in the Underdark in a dungeon, and he had to find his way out. Needless to say, things did not go well for him. If memory serves, he ran into some Kuo-toa. Those Kuo-toa knocked him out, took him prisoner, but he actually happened upon a potential ally. I believe she was a half-elf, if I'm not mistaken, who was also down here. The two of them tried to make a break for it, and then the both of them fell into a trapdoor trap, and at the bottom of the pit was a pool of acid, and both of them were consumed by said acid. But at the end of that session, I created a new cleric. Again, every player character that's going to be in this campaign is always going to be a cleric. Again, this is Religion in the Realms. I just want to kind of use characters who kind of are putting things that I talk about into practice, seeing how things are put into play and how their various perspectives are kind of seen in the world. So I generated a new character. He's a deep gnome cleric of Caladuran Smooth Hands. Pure circumstance, I rolled that up. I would have gone with any of the other gnome gods, but Caladuran is I don't know if I want to call him the patron god of deep gnomes. That might be correct, that might be inaccurate, I'm not sure. But he is very strongly connected to the deep gnomes nonetheless. So, Eldon made it through his first session. Just giving a brief overview as to where he is and what transpired. I rolled up where he was starting, and he is down here currently in the High Forest. So for those in the know, beneath the High Forest is a massive entity called Ormykos. Ormykos is a very interesting entity. Essentially, if you could think of one massive fungi being that more or less lies beneath the entirety of the High Forest. I'm not brushed up on everything about Ormykos, but 4th edition being 4th edition, I believe they went with the idea that he's awakened beneath the High Forest to the point that he's psychically reaching out to various people and drawing them into beneath the High Forest. There's a whole kind of plot line about it, I believe in some 4th edition adventure or something like that, but that's getting too far into the weeds and doesn't concern ourselves with what's transpiring here. Eldon came to this area in tow with some other of his Deep Gnome fellows. He didn't receive the vision that drew the Deep Gnomes to this area. It was one of his fellows. They are seeking out a magic item of some repute. Eldon doesn't know all the particulars. Again, he wasn't the one to be blessed or cursed with the vision, depending on your perspective. But he was brought along because he's a cleric. He's a nature domain cleric. I've tweaked that a bit just to kind of reflect the fact that he's a deep gnome in the Underdark, so he doesn't have all the typical domain spells a nature domain cleric would have from the player's handbook. For example, like he has the earth tremor cantrip. Like that's not something a nature domain cleric starts out with. But again, because he's a nature domain cleric, he's got survival and other skills that kind of allow him to better move about in wild spaces. Kind of following the same kind of storyline as Brynjar, Eldon was attacked by drow. Well, him and his band of deep gnomes were attacked by drow. In the fray, in the skirmish, he got knocked out and kind of left on his lonesome and forgotten about until he awoke, only to find there was really no clue as to where his deep gnome group may have went, if they're still alive, if they were kidnapped by the drow. But he knows he is to still carry out his mission to go and find this magic item. So that's where he started out. This first kind of red dot here was where he was starting out, and in the first session, at least the first half or a good portion of that episode, Eldon was moving through the Underdark. I actually have my notes, so give me a second and I'll bring that up so I have it in front of me. On his first day traveling in the Underdark, he did happen to find a pool of strange liquid. It was merely just water, but it was water that kind of had an essence, if you would, that would allow him to reach out and commune with his god. He asked a couple questions. One was, is this magical item we are searching for evil? The answer came back that indeed it was. Is this magic item in the possession of a being? Came back maybe / unclear. That night, as he was resting, he was woken up by a bat that was kind of fluttering around in the area. Eldon has access to speak with animals as a spell, so he cast that spell. And he asked the bat if he had spotted drow or any of his deep gnome companions around. The bat said no. The second day, Eldon continued on. He found a river. He didn't want a chance drinking the water there. Unable to find food, and went a day without food. He's able to sleep soundly in a secure location. So he's moved into day 3 with a kind of empty belly, but again, I don't recall where he got fresh water, probably from the pool where he communed with Calderan there for a moment. So he's not lacking water, which is kind of the key thing, after all, in basic survival. But 3rd day, he knew where he's going, roughly, enough that he's able to kind of piece out where this dungeon was that he needed to find, and he did indeed find that dungeon. And I'll put us on that dungeon map. And I can tell I'm really zoomed in at the moment. So this dungeon isn't pre-made or anything. It's kind of being built, not kind of, it is being built as we go. You'll see as he moves into different rooms, we generate the room, the exits out of that room, hallways, creatures, and the like. So in the first room, Eldon observed a being overlooking a chasm in the floor here of the antechamber. Eldon was suspicious as to who this could be, in particular the height matched to what was looked to be a drow. We, as the audience slash game master for Eldon, know that this is a drow, but the drow had their features kind of obscured through like a heavy kind of robe and cape. I didn't want to go full on with like a mask or anything, because if you start putting masks on drow, that kind of hints at a particular something. And if you know drow, certain drow wear masks, and yeah, I didn't want to kind of go down that road unless it organically came about. Eldon tried to sneak away so as to not be observed by the drow. The drow noticed him, unfortunately, and I kind of rolled the kind of reaction of the drow, and the drow was combative, so combat kicked off. Eldon's only 1st level, but he managed to get a guiding bolt off and do like a lot of damage against this drow. This drow is using the spy stat block. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that one. Not a ton of hit points, but far more than a 1st level character, that's for sure. And then Eldon just kind of booked it into the 2nd room, because again, he wants no business with drow. Into this room, he found kind of a charred, ash-covered room where kind of old, ratty, like vestments, like the robes clerics and priests would wear, kind of hanging. And of all things he found in this room, you'll see kind of the one with the X through it, a young Kruthic, which is a very kind of alien, aberrant creature. Not 100% on the lore on Kruthics, but they're definitely not, well, I mean, you get a lot of aberrations down the Underdark. That's where they like to hide out. Needless to say, the drow ran in after the room after Eldon. Eldon, just like by circumstance, like Eldon and the drow kind of ran in. Well, the drow ran in as like Eldon was kind of fending off this Kruthic. So at that time, both saw the Kruthic as like the primary antagonist, as you might say. And between Eldon hitting the Kruthic and then the drow coming in and killing the Kruthic was killed. But I forget if Eldon kind of hit the drow again. I think he did with a dagger. Didn't kill the drow, but definitely got the drow to kind of pretty much like back off and be like, okay, not dealing with this deep gnome anymore. I bit off more than I can chew. I'm running away. So you'll see up here, this is where the drow spy has gone. He's kind of fled up into a room. But between those two combats, Eldon again is only level 1. He's racked up a lot of experience points because again, he's the only character at the moment that's being ran, so he gets all the experience points. So to level up, he only needs 300 experience points for level 1 to level 2, so he's close. All that being said, let me get this over here because I'm going to need it in a moment. Eldon moved up to this room through this doorway. Again, he doesn't want to go through the doorway over here where Drow fled because, again, who knows where that Drow is going. They might be going back to their allies. They might be backed into a corner, and again, you don't want to fight something that's backed into a corner. Eldon's done what he's had to do. He's scared off the Drow, so he's more than happy with that. Move through this hallway, and at the moment, he's looking through a portcullis door right here into a... It looks like a crypt. We as the game masters in this situation know it's a false crypt. Just on the off chance anyone remembers from last March me running this solo campaign, like I did add in like a coffin, well, sarcophagus in there. There is a statue we know up by doorway 4 here that's trapped. It looks like Dumathoin, if anyone's familiar with Dumathoin from the Dwarven Pantheon. I forgot to mention this dungeon, if you're to kind of give it a type, it's a crypt. Because we are where we are, I kind of just leaned into the fact that this is a Dwarven crypt, so that's why Dumathoin's here. Dumathoin being the guardian of the dead, of the Dwarven dead in particular. And I'll bring out my notes as well for the dungeon now that we're here, just to kind of show you the full what's going on fully in this room. So it's a level appropriate easy encounter. In other words, there's creatures in here we could potentially face off in combat with. They are 2 cranium rats. We determined that through tables. Their disposition right now is frightened. What they're frightened of, we don't know. There's loot in this room. The furniture is wrecked but still present in this room, so like the acid of the sarcophagus, like it just looks like it's perfectly fine, but using the theater of the mind, it is indeed probably like beat up. There's probably various other elements in the room that are kind of torn up and beat up as well. I have the details there for the trap should that transpire, should Eldon try to get through doorway 4. I also have the information for all the different rooms that lead into and out of this room. But yeah, I think that's enough of me blathering on about what's gone on. I did have like intentions just to kind of give a little kind of primer on Cal Lurduran, but I don't think at this point I've been talking far too long without any action or development happening in the game, so I think at this point it's kind of good just to kind of go forward. And if you do have any questions, both about what I'm doing, about like the podcast or anything like lore related, by all means throw it in the chat. This is very casual. This isn't something that's highly produced. I'm not going to edit this later. It's just a casual kind of 3-hour thing I'm doing. I'm going to be taking a break halfway through and then continuing on. I will be monitoring the chat, so again, throw up your questions. And it probably would have been good of me to kind of get the primary documents I need to help us with this little solo campaign. You can see those kind of appearing as I load them in, because I didn't decide to do that earlier. Give me a moment as I sort through my many PDFs, because I have way too many PDFs for this beautiful, wonderful, but very kind of difficult to manage at times game. I'm in the wrong folder. Where is it? Non-wizard supplements. Part 2. Alright. Hello, Creeping Willow. I don't know much about cranium rats, but maybe they're frightened of you. If memory serves, Eldon was sneaking around. He's being cautious. Of course, given where he is. Also doubly cautious because he knows there's drow creeping around. So I'm kind of going with the perspective that he's successfully sneaking. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but it's what I'm going with just for the sake of kind of moving along here. So, they're not frightened of Eldon. But they're frightened of something else. And the important thing is that Eldon can see into this room. Again, the portcullis, you can see through the gate. Not only that, he's got superior dark vision as a deep gnome, so he's seeing everything, but it's of course in grayscale in the room. So my first kind of question for Eldon is, does he know what a cranium rat is? I should probably get the cranium rat stats out in front of me. That would help too. Happy New Year, Spellio Troy. Glad to see you here. Alright. So, a nature check. Well, just like my mic wasn't working, seems like Eldon's brain's not working. So, Eldon has no idea what these creatures are. Obviously, he knows they're rats, but they're rats with exposed brains. I know what a cranium rat is and what that means. Obviously, it doesn't mean that a certain something might be lurking around, but Eldon has no idea what's going on with these rats. The means to open the gate, well, the portcullis gate is right there. I don't really think there's a way to open a portcullis gate being quiet. I'm going to say Eldon just opens a portcullis gate and moves into the room, which will cause the rats to kind of skitter away. Now let me refer back to my notes. So doorway 1 I just came through. They could scurry past. 2 is a standard wooden door, braced. 3 is a standard wooden door, braced. And then 4 is a stone door. So there's no like empty archway. So if anything, obviously they're much smaller than the tokens imply. They're going to hide away in various parts of the map. Do rats have like good stealth? No, they just have a +2 to dexterity. But Eldon is operating in full-on darkness, so his passive perception suffers a -5 penalty. 20 + 2. So number 2 has kind of... I'm not going to get really picky as to where they are in the room. I'm just going to kind of say they're on the GM layer here on Roll20. They've hidden in somewhere in the debris in the room. 1 is kind of skittered in here around the sarcophagus, trying to hide. Well, let me check Eldon's passive perception. I think it's... Yeah, so his passive perception right now is 8. So Eldon can still see this one rat. And what he does notice is that... Let me reread the description. Furniture wrecked but still present. So to me that means like the sarcophagus inside here, like it's kind of maybe not like the lid's just not ajar, like it's almost like it's been broken open. And Eldon kind of like creeps over there and kind of takes a look in. And when I was kind of going over my notes yesterday, there is loot in this room. In hindsight, I probably, because this is a false crypt, the idea with false crypts, especially in my understanding with dwarves, they usually have false crypts that are trapped. So if you're going to go poking around in their coffins, their sarcophagi and things like that, you set off traps. So in the past, I didn't trap the sarcophagus, I trapped, not so much the doorway, but one of the exits leading out from this room. So in hindsight, I probably should have trapped the sarcophagus, but it is what it is. In the sarcophagus, I rolled up last night that there's 9 gold pieces. But I think Eldon's smart enough, or wise enough at least, to poke around a bit, aka make an investigation check just to make sure like he's not just kind of reaching, just, you know, not seeing shiny gold coins and just like, oh, let me just put my hand in there right away kind of thing. So I think he'll give the sarcophagus a once over, and apparently we're going from one extreme to the next with Eldon. We went from a nat 1 to a nat 20. So he looks around the sarcophagus, is satisfied, doesn't see anything that seems trapped, and he's going to pocket those 9 gold pieces. So he has 15 already from his starting gear, so that brings him up to 24 gold pieces. The question is, does Eldon want anything to do with the rat? I think he's kind of just weirded out by the rat. The rat's not really doing anything to him. Well, give me a sec. Do rats really do anything? Well, I know they're frightened, so I know they're not going to want to engage with Eldon, especially if he's just leaving them alone. And he's a nature domain cleric. He probably knows something's up with them. Brains are just usually exposed on creatures, and then they're roaming around at the same time. But we made the nature roll. He has no idea what it is. I think because he's in a cautious mood, he's not going to poke the bear, make a situation worse by aggravating anything. He's just going to look around at the other doors and make a decision going forward. He may even retreat back. Let me see here. Because this dungeon, like, back when we rolled up this dungeon's only supposed to have 15 rooms. And right now I have 1, 2, 3, and I have a doorways that lead to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so still has options. Let me go back to room 1. He's not so I believe the doorway the drow fled out of is just like an empty archway. It's not a door. So he has no inclination to go down that way. So let me look at door room 1. Door 3, entrance, then 10 feet through to an adjacent passageway, empty archway, no door, okay. Door 4, wooden door, locked. Door 5, so... I think Eldon's just going to go back into room... well, sorry, we went through door 3. There's a reason we went through door 3, is because it was an open archway. It's a known quantity. He probably doesn't want to go back to room 1 either. It'd be so cool if he eventually winds up fighting a mind flayer, messing with the rats and stuff in this place. I mean, there's a... not at this level. And the tables that kind of generate monsters, which again, I'm going to kind of futz around with. Sorry, I have futzed around with, because personally I don't like how they generate creatures and things. Mind flayers aren't ever really going to be rolled up for someone as low level as Eldon, because the Solo Adventures toolbox makes a point to having balanced combat encounters. Again, level 1 being as wonky as it is, things aren't exactly balanced to begin with, but at least it's trying to give you like a fair chance, as it were, to survive. Anyways, getting back to the rooms, I don't want to kind of just sit here and do nothing. So let's go back to room 3. So I have 2 standard wooden doors and 1 stone door. I don't know I have a 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let me get rid of that 5th door. Just like that. Get back on the token. I'm going to roll a d6, and then we're going to determine which door Eldon goes to, because none of them... Well, the one with the statues, I don't think he like immediately is like drawn to it, so I'm just going to see which door he goes to. Well, I could roll a d3 instead, because I can do that, because we're not using physical dice. So he's going to doorway 3 over here. So doorway 3. It's a standard wooden door, braced with metal, opens into a passage. So I have a lot of macros, not a lot, but a good number of macros kind of built up already, just to easily just click and generate stuff for us. These macros, like the values I put into them, they come from, not all of them come from the Solo Adventurers Toolbox 1 and 2. I have added in at times like things that I would prefer, but passage ends in an open entrance to a room. Go to room table. So let me go back to discovered hold here. So standard wooden door, braced with metal, unlocked, opens into a passage. Doesn't really give me too much information as to how long the passage is, so we're just going to make it very basic. a simple hallway. And stop me if you've heard or seen this before, but we're going to be cautious. And we're going to make an investigation at the door. Doesn't seem trapped, isn't locked. It ends in an open entrance to a room. Okay, so just a hallway that leads down to an archway that opens up entirely to a room. So we gotta generate the room as well. Trapezoidal room. D6 by, so 10 feet roughly on each side. Fun. Okay. Time to get polygonal. Why am I having a brain fart as to what a trapezoid is? Yeah, that's what a trapezoid is. That's what I thought. Second guessed myself and I didn't have to. Okay. It's roughly oh. Well, 20, don't do this to me. So it would be... I didn't do that quite the way I wanted to. So it would be like... through here. And, oops. Be like that, and then like that. That looks messy. It looks quite messy. And I also need the Dungeon Master's Guide because I need to know what kind of room this is. 5th edition. Okay, so rooms are in the appendix. We're in a crypt. So not, well. A tomb. Roll me a D100. Oh, sorry, it's a D20 roll for this table. Workshop for embalming the dead, so where the mortician does their work essentially. So let's get this description open and make some edits. Room for embalming / preparing the dead. Let's get out the old bulletin list. Why did you put that there? Oh, I see why. So, furniture. Wrecked, but still present. Level appropriate. Medium encounter. We'll generate that in a second. Loot, 30%. So there's indeed loot. Yes. Secret door, no. Clue, no. So we need to know what kind of creature is in this room. So that's in the monster encounter tables, 115. Medium for level 1. We will roll a d4. Two. So that's 1 CR 1/8 monster. One times CR 1/8 monster. Okay. Scroll down to the Underdark monster types. And we have the D12 table for CR 1/8. 8. Ye old poisonous snake. All right. There's a snake in the room. What do I need here? Just a simple token for the snake. $13. 2. Passive perception of 10. And then I want to open up one of my tables for creature behavior. It's the overland encounter table that I use at in my own campaigns. So we're rolling a d20. Okay, what is the snake doing? Resting, relaxing, nesting. Okay. Poisonous snake that is resting. And then we want to determine the loot. Loot tables, 152. A CR8. Now, it doesn't make sense for a snake to have any loot in here. But, I mean, it's possible that I'm overthinking this. Let's put some gold in here, or whatever I roll up. If it's going to be Electrum, I'm telling you right now I'm converting it to gold or silver because I'm not messing around with Electrum. Okay, so 5. So good thing I said that because it's 3d6 Electrum pieces. So we'll make the conversion after we rolled up. So 14. So what is that? Electrum piece is worth half a gold piece. I'm pretty sure. So that's 7 gold pieces inside this room. Seven gold pieces. All right. So this snake isn't hiding. It is a tiny creature, but it's kind of just out in the open, resting. Enough that Eldon can see it. But Eldon can see as well in this kind of embalmer's room, this mortician's room, that there is many of the tools are kind of like smashed and rusted at this point. There's probably like a table. I'll say it's a stone table, so to the point that's kind of it lasted all these years, but much of the other kind of tools and implements that were used are kind of like rusted, kind of strewn about the floor. But the snake has kind of made a point, maybe on like a small alcove, to kind of like build its nest or kind of find a spot for it to kind of hang out and take a snooze in. And here's a I'm probably almost kind of like shooting myself in the foot, but what if the snake is resting, maybe not really exactly on top of the coin, but nearby the coin in the alcove? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask the oracle a question. So just to remind people, this table, I believe, is taken straight out of the Solo Adventurer's Guide #1, and I've just kind of wrote it out and put it in Roll20 just for quick access. It's the Q&A mechanic. If there's kind of any kind of yes/no question that I want to ask, you don't always have to go and ask everything, because if you keep doing that, it's going to take too long to get anywhere. But the idea is you roll d20. If you want to add a modifier to it, whether you think it's impossible this situation would ever manifest, or it's almost like a certainty, like this is the spectrum, you can like add the modifier to your d20 roll to make it more likely to be a yes or more likely to be a no. In this case, I don't think there's any modifier I want to give here. I think it's just a flat d20 roll. So the question is the snake is sleeping in an alcove. Is the coin that is in this room right by it in the alcove? So I'm going to roll a d20, add no modifier to it. 16. So unfortunately the answer is yes. So does Eldon have training in animal handling? He doesn't. He's got good wisdom because he's a cleric. I'm going to say he's going to try and... we're here adventuring. He's going to try and sneak in and get the gold. So it's a snake that's already asleep. I have a +3 to stealth. We'll see what happens. Okay. That's not very good. Snakes have good passive perception. Well, it's 10. It's 10. Subtract it by 5 because it's dark. It's asleep. Let me look at the snake stat block just in case I'm missing something. Blind sight, of course, but they don't have anything like tremor sense. People might be calling me out on this with such a crummy roll, but I mean, the snake's asleep. It's got passive perception right now of 5, and I rolled a 6. If the snake was conscious, the passive perception would be 10. So Eldon just kind of rolls on in and scoops up. Well, I should probably be making a sleight of hand roll too, shouldn't I? Because he's made his way successfully there. Now it's just a matter of, you know, finessing the coin away and then picking it up. I could see some DMs kind of being like, yeah, no, just kind of, we'll make that stealth roll kind of good for everything. But I didn't click on anything. Well, there we go. Okay. Good job, Eldon. You have picked up some coin. I mean, 31 gold pieces isn't nothing. I mean, if it does come to it, maybe you can bribe someone or something with it. So yeah. Backs out of the room. He's a nature cleric. He's not going just to stab a creature while it's asleep. And well, the snake is going to wake up after I grab the coin, but I don't think the snake is intentionally had no intention to guard the coin. It just circumstance. So moves back out of the room. I think that's worth some experience points on Eldon's hand. Like, I'm not going to give him the full, 25 experience points for that. What I will give him instead. So it's a bit funky, but we'll go with it. I want to keep it nice and simple. I'll just give him 10 for that, so it's 235. Just something. All right. I am going to mute my mic as I take a drink. Oh yes, the great worm is annoyed that I stole his hoard. He shall save his wrath and come smite me on a later day. Okay. So that leaves Eldon with 2 possible rooms to... Well, did I roll exits out of that room at all? No, it's just a trapezoidal room. Didn't have any exits or anything. Okay, so I'm good on that in that sense. Go to roll a d6. 1 to 3. He goes to doorway number 4 to the north. 4 to 6. He goes to doorway 2 in the south. Obviously, I want him to go to doorway 2 because I know doorway 4 is trapped. Well, you can say I'm influencing the dice, speaking my wants aloud, but here we are. Doorway 2. So we're back in room 3. I should probably label room 4 here, so just give me a moment. Roll20 always wants like font to be so small. I want it to be legible. Roll20. Room. Oh. That's on the GM layer. Okay. Oh yeah, Spellia Troy. This is going to be up later for sure. Have a good day. Hopefully when you go to watch later, Eldon's still in one piece. So... This is room 3. The doorway 2 is a stair and wooden door, braced with metal, unlocked, opens into room. Okay. So, bring Eldon over towards the room. Sorry, towards the door. We're going to generate a new room. Rectangular. D4 feet by D4 feet. D6 exits, including the one you entered by. Okay. So width-wise, it's 40 feet. Well, that's just a square. Anyways, we'll make it a square. Why not? Okay, so let's draw this bad boy out. So I want to split the difference. We don't always need to split the difference. Let's get a little creative here. So 40 feet's 8. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not gonna get because I don't want to. One of the big things I realized, kind of rewatching and re-listening to my my last streams of this campaign, was I get too caught up trying to make everything perfect in terms of dimensions. That's good enough. I don't know if it's an exact square. It's fine. Anyways, so I got the room. Dimensions are put in. D6 exits, including the one you entered by. So I have a D6 here. It's a 2. So I have the one doorway here. So I gotta throw out another doorway. And for the sake of not having rooms run into one another, we'll put it here. So doorways are taken care of. Let's get the description here. I'll label it because I forgot to do that last time. Make sure we're on the DM's layer. Room 5. Oops. Room 5. Okay. Let's get the Let's make this bigger so we can see some things. Taken. Room 5. Rubble, ceiling partially collapsed. Level appropriate. Easy encounter. Loot. First D100 roll, 20%. No. Secret door, no. Clue, yes. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever had clue come up, so we're gonna figure out what that means. But first, we have to figure out the level appropriate easy encounter. So we go back up. Was it 115? Yeah, 115 for the an easy encounter for level 1 is, well, we gotta roll d4 and then go from there. A 3, which means it's 2 CR0 creatures. Two times CR0 creature. I really hope it's not cranium rats again, because that's really not what we want. I don't have anything against cranium rats. What I have against them is who their masters are. And I don't need that manifesting. D10. Six. A myconid sprout. So 2 times myconid sprouts. Let me get their stat block open. Myconid. Okay. And this room, its function. This is a tomb, roll d20. 3 chapel dedicated to deities that watch over the dead and protect their resting places. So, chapel to do Thoin. Okay. Sprout has an int of 8, so that's a intelligent creature. So what could they be doing in here? Let me see. Roll d20. 12 for them. Altered state. In an altered state. So, because that's a table of my own creation, when I put altered state, it doesn't necessarily need to be that they're under the influence of perhaps alcohol, a drug, a hallucinogen, maybe they've... Well, are sprouts immune to certain things? No. Oh. Just go with our first instinct. Um, taking in some spores from elsewhere that has affected their minds. Okay. They could be in a trance. That's another good point. Willow, they very much could be in a trance. Myconid lore, it's kind of rough. I do believe there's some sort of like kind of trancing they do. I mean, these are probably some young Myconids, so it's entirely possible like they're trying to like commune with one another, and they're just not. Everything's perhaps like they're kind of going above a little too, putting out too many spores or putting out the wrong spores. In any case, we'll go with that. Now, the clue thing is another story. Gotta figure out a clue. Downtime activities, story element tables. What do the monsters do? Monster encounters for solo PC, loot tables. Okay, so there's nothing. Let me look at the table contents for number 2. Maybe they actually have a clue table. D12, okay. Different things. No, of course not. Alright. Control F, it is. See, clue table in chapter 9. Well, there we go. I probably just skimmed that. No, I didn't. Okay. Okay. Overarching terrain, overarching terrain. Minor feature, minor feature. I don't know why, just don't do that instead. Wilderness clue. I mean, this has to be the table, so I think before we generate something here, the clue needs to be relevant to like Eldon, in terms of the magic item he's searching out, his deep known companions, something like that. So let's see what we roll up. It's a, what is it, a D100 table? Okay. $93. About 500 yards ahead, a flock of birds rises suddenly into the air as if something had disturbed them. I don't want to immediately dismiss it, and something's brewing in my head, so give me a moment. I want to check out room 5. Rectangular dimensions, 1d6 axis, including the one you entered by. Okay. I'm not ruling out that the birds kind of like rising up into the air because they were disturbed, because we could tweak that to being something else, like another kind of small beast kind of is scared by something else off in the dungeon. And the idea I'm kind of going with is, well, what if it's coming from over by the other door? So what I need to do to kind of suss that out is to determine the door. for room 5 here, this second doorway. Standard wooden door braced with metal that is unlocked. Opens onto a passage, a stair, room, so that's not really important. Well, it opens into a room. We don't know. Eldon doesn't know that. We know that. So what I'm going to say... that's the wrong... I'm just going to bring this document over onto my other monitor so I have it in front of me so I can tweak it when I write it out. The clue through the second doorway. Well, through the second doorway. Skittering insects. Well, not through, beneath. So beneath. Crawl quickly in multiple different directions. As if something disturbed them. Okay. So we need to keep in mind this is a clue relevant to Eldon. Eldon doesn't know specifically it's a clue relevant to what he's relevant to him, but we know it's relevant to him. I don't want these insects. They can be any such insect we want. They could be earwigs, they could be beetles, they could be whatever they are. But not enough to make like a mechanical swarm that's gonna run into the room and attack Eldon. They just kind of going every which way. But it's alerted him to something in the other room, disturbing the insects to such an extent that they're flying. Well, not flying, but flying in the sense that they're leaving very quickly out of the room. Doorway. Going away from this room is a standard wooden door braced with metal and unlocked. Opens onto a room. So, I think we have all the elements for this room. We have the myconid sprouts. They're small size. I put them on the GM layer by accident. And I'm using the wrong tool. Okay. So Eldon's still here in the other room. What happens essentially? We won't even make an investigation check. Won't make a perception check for him. There is clearly the sound of like it's muffled because again he's behind a door, but he can hear like skittering of a bunch of insects, and then he can hear some kind of soft footfalls within the room because obviously the myconids are in the room. Their minds are a little messed up at the moment, but enough that obviously they'd be conscious enough of a bunch of insects that are kind of spilling out of this other room. So they probably take interest in that, but I don't think they're really going to do anything. But Eldon knows something's in this room, and obviously he wants to be careful about pushing his luck. So what he's going to do, he's going to make a sleight of hand roll to see if he opens the door quickly, not quickly, but quietly, so he can also have a look as to what's transpiring. Yeah, that's good enough for this situation. So Eldon opens up into the small chapel to do Mathoan. Most of the various kind of seats, statues, probably even the altar in here, just completely covered in rubble from the ceiling that's collapsed down atop them. He sees these two creatures over by the door who are looking at all these insects kind of spilling out and kind of going into every which direction inside this chapel. I think Eldon... identifying a myconid, I could see that being like a nature check or like a history check. Make a history check for Eldon. Yeah, like he knows these are myconids. Especially he's from the Underdark. He knows enough not to kind of immediately like dismiss them for being dangerous. He knows these ones in particular are quite young. So perhaps it's time for a bit of diplomacy. What time are we at? Okay. So it's close to 2:30 my time. So what I'll do is take a break, probably about 10 minutes, get back to it. We'll see if we can do some, we can link in our minds through spores with these myconids and perhaps get some information, or at very least not make these myconids think we're here to hurt anyone. So we'll do that. So I will see you in about 10 minutes. Alright. Is the microphone working? It is. Good. Okay. I'm back. Just gonna go for... Well, it'll be 4 p.m. my time, which will make it 2 p.m. Eastern, and then... No, not... 4 p.m. my time is 6 p.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. Pacific. That's right. There we go. Got my time zones right. Alright, so... Eldon has successfully opened up this door quietly. He sees a bunch of insects spilling out from beneath the door across the way. And a couple myconids. I was thinking while I was gone that the myconids under our mycos are bits kind of defensive, if I'm remembering right. I'm kind of contradicting myself given the fact that I kind of run a lore channel. But for the sake of not getting caught up in the lore, we're just going to say these myconids are at least, as the game master, we're going to say they are at least willing to be approached by a deep gnome, I would think. That being said, like, Eldon very much needs to approach in such a way to make himself seem at least well, peaceful. So let's see here. We'll make a persuasion check. All right. Give me a moment. It's been a while since I've looked at Eldon's spells, so let's see if he's got anything useful here. Looking at his spells, it looks like I made a point not to give him guidance, because I know how guidance goes, especially in a lot of 5e games. I'm not a forever DM. This is a tangent, but I've been a DM for enough in 5th edition just to get sick of guidance spam to the point that even when I play clerics, like, I don't like choosing it as a cantrip. I will, but anyways, that's a tangent. Especially, okay, that's funny. I just thought of it, like, because I've played Baldur's Gate 3. I've beat Baldur's Gate 3. In the way that game that just encourages you to guidance spam it's too much. It's too much at the end of the day, but that's neither here or there. So I have Earth Tremor, Speak with Animals prepared, Create Destroy Water, Cure Wounds, Detect Poison and Disease, and Guiding Bolts. So nothing that's really going to help us here. So let's go back to our skills. Persuasion's kind of like the one I'm going to, and it's what I'm going to roll with. I rolled a 6. Great. So I think what I want to do is kind of go to the monster reaction table. I know there's one of these. It's... $115. And again, like, they're in a bit of a confused state, so maybe this is apt that this is happening, that he's approaching them and they're not immediately kind of being at ease. Monster encounters, reaction, anything like that. Choosing your monsters for challenge at level. Let me just zoom right on by. A lot of tables. A lot of tables. I could have swore there's a monster reaction table. Probably just missing it. Reaction. Oh, this is monster reaction by monster intentions / tactics. So it's a D100 roll. That's pretty low. 8. Monster is curious and will stay some distance away, checking you out before approaching. If a beast may be open to befriending, make charisma check with advantage. If successful, you could take as companion. Well, I don't know why you'd be making a charisma roll for for beasts when there's a skill for it in the game, a skill that rarely gets used as it is. But anyways, so these Myconids kind of back up, both of them. Again, they're in a kind of a perplexed state, and probably in hindsight, like I've made the roll, I'm not walking things back. I should have probably made it with advantage because they're kind of messed up in terms of their consciousness not being as it should be. But Eldon kind of walks into this room, kind of like showing he doesn't have any weapons. But I think at this point, because we rolled for the reaction, they're curious enough to kind of release their distress spores. No, rapport spores. So it's a 10-foot radius, so 10 feet. So I don't know if that's exactly the math needed, but let's just say he's kind of in between the two of them, because why not? So the rapport spores are let out. Telepathy is now possible between both Eldon and these very young Myconids, who I believe are just kind of equivalent to children. That's what I'm going with. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but whatever. So Eldon would kind of introduce himself, explain who he is and what he's doing here. And we're kind of moving into like the Q&A kind of a situation here. No, I think Eldon kind of needs to kind of persuade them again to kind of show like he's not available, but peaceful. Again, this is with advantage, so yeah. 11's good enough as far as I'm concerned. The DC was only going to be a 10 again. So we have a dialogue. We move into kind of the Q&A mechanic. We don't need to roleplay this out. I mean, only because it's a little awkward because it's just myself doing it. Maybe if I did more streams more consistently, I'd be comfortable enough to kind of roleplay things out. But Eldon is going to ask these Myconids a couple things. One, have they seen his fellow? Has he seen either drow? No, sorry. I don't want to make the question too complex. Have they seen any deep gnomes? 18 is a yes. Were they with drow? Yes. Did you see them in here? No. Okay. Story element interaction tables. Let's see if I can generate something from there. Urban events, wilderness events. No, I don't like any of that. Situations table. So I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll 2 situations. You kind of use those to inform where these myconids saw these saw the deep gnomes with these drow. So roll a d10. So that brings us to the 400 to 499 table. We roll d100. 91. Wink. Okay. That's our first element. Roll d10 again. Five. 200 to 299. D100. 39. Wink and flee. Wink and flee. So let's think about that. Something winked at them and they fled. And these myconids observed it. Okay. It's not 100% in care what the clues are kind of spelling out, but again, I don't want to dwell on things too long. Dialogue. Myconid sprouts. I saw both drow and deep gnomes. They saw this group fleeing from a massive creature whose eye was blinking in the dark. Both are not in this dungeon. Okay. Another question for the myconids. Did the deep gnomes seem uninjured? Did they look uninjured? What is that? Where's my Q&A? Mechanic. What's a 14? 14's a yes. Okay. That's the wrong document. Deep gnomes look to be uninjured. Okay. Did the... I'm gonna say this is close by. I don't need to ask the question like, oh, did you see the gnomes and drow, like, how far away did you see them? We'll just say this was relatively close by. It's not in the dungeon. In what direction were they going? I don't know if Underdark creatures would really know cardinal directions well enough, but for the sake of it, we'll just roll d8 using cardinal directions, and we'll say, like, 1 is north. I think that's right, yeah. I think that's right. North, whatever. Oops, I bumped the mic. 7, 7, so west. They fled to the west. Still close by. Okay. So that means a couple things. For one, we know the clue past that door isn't relevant to the drow and deep gnomes that, the deep gnomes that Eldon came here with, was traveling out this way with. We know it's related to the magic item he's trying to find out. Trying to find. Which is interesting. He's on good terms with these myconids enough to the point that he's going to I think at this point the insects and the like have kind of fled and kind of there's no more spilling out from beneath the door. So instead, let's get back to generating some features and things. Room 2, room 5, doorway going from this room. Standard wooden door, braced with metal and unlocked, opens into a room. Okay. It's time to generate a new room. Octagonal. I'm not drawing out an octagon. Unless there's a quick way anyone knows how to do it. I'm not drawing out an octagon. We'll just make it a circle. It's 60 feet across, so that's a pretty big room. So again, what I'm starting to realize is the more I play with these kind of tables and things, the more I'm really kind of cluing into the fact that I shouldn't get hung up too much on the exact dimensions. Like, I know, like, what is this across the way in terms of diameter? like it's what, 50 feet? That's close enough as far as I'm concerned. I don't need to get bogged down trying to measure things out 100% correctly. Okay, so this is interesting, and it's kind of working out the way I wanted it to. It's octagonal, just keep that in mind, but I'm using a circle to kind of simplify how it looks. This is room 6. Room 6. Ugh. Keep doing that. Room is octagonal in shape. Drew it as a circle for ease. Type of room in the tomb is this? 25. Crypt for less important burials. Furniture wrecked, but oops, but still present. NPC. Near death. 1d4 levels less than you, minimum level 1. So it's a level 1 NPC. They are unconscious. Level appropriate. Hard encounter. Enemies reduced to 50% HP. The NPC has fought a powerful creature and lost, but has damaged it somewhat. Okay. Loot. 50% says loot says no. So it's maybe I'm gonna say the NPC knows something about this magic item, be them friend or foe. That's what I'm going to say here. So no, NPC knows something important about the item we are trying to find. Be it location, powers, etc. Okay, so a few things we need to determine. Who is the NPC? There's a nice random NPC generator I have, and all I do is click on it, and bam. Okay. Female tiefling. Neutral good in alignment. Powerful, intolerant. Always a good mix. Goal. Resolve a dispute. Class if needed. Fighter. I have found myself a tank. Next is I have to determine the enemies. So it's a hard encounter. So let's go back here. One 16. Did I go too far? This is a hard encounter, so I can roll d6. One. One CR. I don't like when it mixes these things up, because you get odd combinations. What I'll do instead is I'll go for the 1 CR 1/4 monster. Okay, CR quarter. It's a d20 roll. Okay, that's 20. Wretched Sorrowsworn. Wretched. Sorrowsworn. Okay. Creature is 1 times Wretched Sorrowsworn. Horrid little monsters, these Sorrowsworn, gather in packs to scour the Shadowfell for prey. These desperate entities subsist on life force. When they find a creature, they search for it, sink their life fangs into their enemies, and drink deep. So, if anything, they're feasting on this tiefling. Well, about to. Then there's just kind of a thing here just about Sorrowsworn in general. Pervasive melancholy gives rise to strange incarnations. Body forms of suffering. Personifies a different aspect of despair or distress. Okay. So they're small size. They're kind of funny looking creatures. Here, give me a moment. I'll bring out an image for everyone to take a look at. That's what a wretched Sorrowsworn looks like. So if you can imagine them going after this poor tiefling woman who's laying on the ground, about to kind of feast on them. Okay. Alright. Using the wrong tool again. Token. Ugh. It's just a fighter asset I can use. Whatever. I'll just use my generic ones. Okay. So here is our tiefling on the ground. Here's the Sworn about to eat into it. So 15 AC is pretty high. They only have 5 hit points because they got damaged by fighting the tiefling. Passive perception of 8. So we set the scene. Eldon's at the door. What to do in this situation? I think Eldon would probably just investigate the door real quickly, just to make sure it's not trapped. And indeed, it isn't, at least to his appearance. He's just gonna throw the thing open. And indeed, it is time for some combat, because Eldon might be lawful neutral, but I think he has the wherewithal, not the wherewithal, but the bearing not to just let a monstrous creature like whatever this is just to kind of chow down on some poor individual laying on the ground. So let's add so you can see the name there, it's Gebetto Gummin. Like, that was his... I generated Eldon's first name. Like Eldon was the second name generated for this character. I did not go with Gebetto. Gebetto was too close to Geppetto. It is funny that it's kind of just defaulting to that old name, but it is what it is. I'm fine with just leaving it. So let's get Eldon's sheet open and roll initiative for him. He rolled very high. And then we roll for the Swirl Sworn. Oh my god. Sorrow Sworn. It rolled pretty well too, but Eldon goes first. Right. Eldon, my friend, let's see what you have for spells. He could just chuck his dagger. Like, this thing already looks wounded, so he could do that. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just chuck the dagger and see what happens. So... okay, maintain his distance. And chuck. That's a 21 to hit, which will hit. 4 points of damage to the Sorrowsworn. Okay. Eldon has got the Sorrowsworn's attention for sure. It's a little... they're not very smart creatures. They have an intelligence of 5. So I think, if anything, it's just going to... it doesn't have, like... of course there's the door in behind Eldon, but there's no immediately apparent, like, exit. So I think it's just going to rush up on him. Movement to 40 feet. They have a +3 to hit. I mean, I want to check Elden's AC because it's been a while since I looked at it, but that doesn't hit him. Yeah, he's got 14 AC. So, no bonus actions. Oh, here's the thing. Damage resistances from the Sourceborn. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing while in dim light or darkness. So actually, Elden only did 2 points of damage. So is that... so is that 3 out of a potential 5 hit points. But it still runs up on Elden, tries to bite it, and misses. How many daggers does Elden have? I think it just has the 1? Yeah, just the 1. Okay. So it's his turn. Does he have any melee spells? Is the question. I mean, he does have Earth Tremor. I think he's just going to Sacred Flame the creature. That's not a lot of damage. This makes a dex save. D20 +1. Well, it takes the full brunt of that. Alright. Then it's the creature's turn. I mean, it's right there. Like, maybe it just runs off. I'm not gonna get too hung up on making rolls, so it's just gonna try and bite. Elden. Ugh. Oh no. Oh, this is a D10. That's gonna be 2d10 damage. Oh, Elden, no. He's only got 8 hit points. Okay. Elden's at 0. He's unconscious. There's also this. After the Sourcehorn hits, it attaches to the target. While attached, the Sourcehorn can attack, and at the start of each of the Sourcehorn's turns, the target takes 1d10 necrotic damage. Okay. So, there's a chance. Acquire knowledge. The Sourcehorn can attach itself by spending 5 feet of its movement a turn. On its turn, the creature, including the target, can't use that. Okay. That's the Sourcehorn's turn. We move to Elden's turn. Death saves. Yeah, it's a success. While attached, the Source Horn can attack. In the start of each of its turns, the target takes 6 1d10 plus 1 necrotic damage. Okay. I think it's fair that this creature essentially knocked down the being that was attacking it and has a way just to kind of leave. But what I want to do is I want to leave it up to the dice as to whether or not it keeps trying to essentially draw, like, kill Eldon further, or if it's just going to run away through the door, past those myconids, and any other which way. Like, Eldon hasn't kept that door these doors closed by any stretch. So we go to the question and answer mechanic. There should be a modifier on this. Like, this creature's on death's door. It's got a hit point left. It's got a bestial intelligence. Just like on the precipice of becoming like, I want to say like sapient is the right word. Highly likely. I'm going with highly likely. That's the modifier I'm giving it. So it's a d20 plus 4. Okay. So is the creature flee? Yes. I should have stated the question before I rolled, but the creature flees away. We can resolve that later on. The important thing right now is Eldon and his death saves. He's made a success. Now we have to see what happens next. Fail. Well, he's not quite safe yet. Willow, yeah. Okay. It had to be this way, huh? It had to come down to one last roll, didn't it? Okay. These clerics, man. These clerics have a lifespan. Just... At least Eldon made a second session. You can say that about him. Okay. I'm a little annoyed, honestly, I'm a little annoyed. It is what it is. It's a single character at level 1 in 5th edition. Let's not pretend like this wasn't going to be lethal. All it takes is one nasty hit, some bad dice rolls, and you're kaput. And we've seen it twice now. all that to say, we're going to use the last bit of this session to make a new character. Alright. Alright. Okay. Bam. New character. Oh no, I don't. It's a new handout. I do this in handout first. That's right. That's how I do this. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the template essentially from when I made Eldon at the end of Brynjar's session. I'm just copying and pasting it here into the document as we go to make a new cleric. So oops. See, the thing was, and it's funny, I was considering, well, I have a spell slot left with Eldon. I'm probably going to heal this tiefling just on the small chance that they can be an ally to me, because that would be great. And that's why I'm like, I'm going to Sacred Flame this fool instead. I rolled 2 damage, was 1 short. And then that soccer critical hits me next. Alright. Alright, okay. So what do I need? Give me a sec. Yes, here we are. Okay, so this was the document when I first made Brynjar, kind of used as the kind of like the setup. So I guess it wouldn't hurt to kind of go over it again, just cause we're here. The year is 1492, Dale Reckoning, or DR for short. On the roll of years, it's called the year of 3 ships sailing. I have a little thing there about how is it alluding to Jaraxel and him over in Waterdeep. It might be. Those of you who are familiar with Dragon Eyes. The month is Uktar, which is also known as the Rotting. It's equivalent to November in our real world. The date is the 16th, just coming out of a new moon. So here's the kind of the lunar phases for the month. So we're on the 16th. I picked the 16th in Uktar because, well, it's an important date to me. I won't say why it is. That might be giving too much away, but Silver Marches, we've already gone over. Be a cleric. We're going to keep things simple. We're not going to flesh out a backstory because as we've seen in 2 instances, level 1 is far too lethal. So first we have to do is roll a d8 for race. If you look at the table, it's not so much a table, but it kind of is a table. Like I left Dragonborn out of this list because Dragon. How to put this? Like, of course, there's Dragonborn, like spread out over the continent of Faerun, but the bulk of them are down in Unther, like in Time Anther and all that stuff. Like, the chances of a Dragonborn being up in the Silver Marches is like, realistically, in terms of this setting, is quite slim. So I just kind of ruled them out entirely. I have nothing against Dragonborn. This is a total tangent I'm going on, but the damn writers had to shoehorn them into the setting for whatever reason, and we've had to kind of go with that and make sense of that since 4th edition. So roll d8 for race. 8. Okay. Tiefling. I think this is maybe me just trying to salvage something here. Tiefling. Could it just be the Tiefling who's unconscious on the ground? She's going to wake up and find a dead deep gnome like across the way from her that wasn't there when she was fighting this. She wasn't fighting when she was fighting this Sorrowsworn that got kind of scared off. No. Okay. So Tiefling. Okay, time to roll for stats. Uh, 13. Uh, 9, 12. 11, 14. 12, 16. 17. So that's 5. 10, 13. Well, I mean, this individual's got some pretty good stats. Okay, deity. Faerunian Pantheon, so this is just a d20 roll. Bam. 18. Who's 18 on my table? Oh no. Talos. Well, I don't necessarily need to be evil, being a Talosian cleric. What biome am I starting off in? Maybe it'll be on the Underdark. Urban / city. And then the trinket. Player's Handbook. I'll make the D100 roll right now because I know that's what it is. A 1. Don't think that really is going to manifest something wonderful on that chart, but we'll see. So, if you will recall, Eldon had a necklace with like mummified or like dried fingers from elves. This is what this tiefling has. A mummified goblin hand. Starting quest. Starting quest. Is this in the Is this in here? Yes. So it's a D100 roll first. Problem is oops. Environmental disturbance, strange weather, infestation, or plague. So, obviously, environmental disturbance and strange weather isn't really a concern for a cleric of Talos. That's what they want. So, the problem is an infestation or plague. And I'll make that a D100 roll, just to kind of determine which of the two it is. Infestation's the lower half, plague's the higher half. So it's a plague. Okay. Oh, I forgot, because I rolled up the biome, but I have to determine like which urban city they're actually in, either beneath, within, or just on the outskirts of. So I'm gonna roll a d10. One. Mithril Hall. Yes, I'm sure the dwarves are going to abide a Talosian cleric who's here to solve their plague issue. All right. I'm not immediately going to kind of change that. I'm going to leave it. So investigate / solve is the quest. Quest is to investigate / solve. This is coming from $55. 55. I mean, local temple gives you the quest. That's... I can't think of any temple of Talos that is nearby in the Silver Marches. I'd have to check my own notes, if not come up with one. But yeah, rather than kind of, I don't want to sit here and kind of bore people like making a character sheet and things like that. I mean, that's just the way things go. Obviously, I'd want to go the full time. My intent was to go to the top of the hour, but here I am. I have to kind of give this kind of like a good think, like as to what that looks like. Whether this is a temple, like a dwarven temple, kind of a kind of reaching out to like a local cleric to ask for them help. That doesn't make any more sense. Like, there's a reason why a temple to Talos is telling one of their clerics to go and investigate a plague down in some dwarven hold. There's a reason for it, and it's not probably what's immediately like on the surface. Like, you need... The way I'm looking at it is, obviously, like, a cleric of Talos, the faith of Talos, wants destruction. They want people to fear Talos. They want to have them make offerings, but that's because they fear him causing destruction, bad weather, and things like that. Not plague. Plague is Talona's portfolio. So, like, Talos can't abide by that, for one. The idea that some evil is getting more attention than he is, probably, not that this like plague that's this outbreak of plague down in Mithril Hall is kind of like really kind of garnering too much of his attention, but perhaps I'm just kind of brainstorming, like this Talos cult, this Talos faith, like, had plans for Mithril Hall, and this plague is just causing is a cause for concern for some reason. But yeah, exactly. Warring Evils, Willows. It's two crappy gods just wanting the attention that, and at the moment, the attention Talos wanted from these dwarves is now being taken away from maybe like the direct actions of like Talona's followers, or perhaps just there was a outbreak of plague for whatever reason. But even still, that helps Talona, and that doesn't help Talos. Anyways, all that to say, I don't know when I'm going to be running this next. I have a week off in the middle of January. If anything, I'll be running this again during that week, maybe multiple times. I'm interested to see what it's like playing an evil cleric. Give me a sec. I can actually do their alignment right now. I just want to check something on Ye Old Forgotten Realms wiki in terms of alignment. Talos. Because if memory serves, suggested alignments for Talos clerics is, I'm like having my own quiz for myself here. It's chaotic evil for sure, chaotic neutral, and probably neutral evil would be my guess. So, yeah, exactly. Chaotic neutral, neutral evil, and chaotic evil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the on a 1, it's chaotic neutral. 2, it's chaotic evil. 3, neutral evil. And that'll be our roll a d3. Okay, so alignment, chaotic evil. Obviously, this is a Tempest domain cleric. And yeah, that's going to be interesting. And it'll be interesting because this is very much not a... because we're starting in a city, it'll be interesting to kind of see how the tables and the instructions help to play out like an urban adventure for your character. I'm sure there's plenty of prompts and things like that. But yeah, like my kind of big sticking point here is kind of, I'll have to read up on Mithril Hall is what I'm trying to get at, because I don't know how easy it would be for like a cleric of Talos. Just obviously deception's a thing. Maybe we just kind of hand wave it to the point that they're in the city and they're kind of doing their own thing, kind of keeping who they worship on the down low. But again, I'll read up on it. If I need to adjust things, I'll adjust things, but we'll go from there. Anyways, again, Happy New Year to everyone. Between Eldon dying, my mic being muted when I first started the session, it's just the way things go sometimes. And I'm not going to get caught up on it. I have to edit the Asmodeus episode. That's probably going to take me a few days. It's hard to say how things are going to unfold, because work sometimes can be difficult in terms of challenging my free time. After that, Joaquin's episode is... the research phase isn't done. I'd probably say I'm like 80% done. And then I'm already kind of thinking ahead to the episode that's called going to follow Joaquin's. Again, that's going to be a revision of an older episode on a goddess that I want to not so much correct, but just kind of readdress. I did her episode so long ago. I think it's with kind of my better understanding of the setting, better access to multiple different sources. I think it's a good time to kind of get back and kind of revisit her episode and kind of update it accordingly. I'm not saying that's going to not happen for any of the other like past episodes I did and like when I first started out. Never say never, but it's not something I'm going to be addressing continually, maybe here or there. And after that, I know the Faerunian Pantheon technically isn't complete when I'm finished Joaquin's episode. I'm very much aware of that. There's multiple gods that still need to be covered. Like LaRue, for example, Sean DeCool, Moander, Velsharoon, all these other gods that when I started the Faerunian Pantheon series of this podcast, I really only wanted to do the table. For those of you a Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, the table that's in there for the Faerunian Pantheon. I think that's it's close to 50 gods on there. It's like 48 or something like that. I forget the exact number. And I remember way back when I determined after doing the Drow Pantheon which Pantheon I was going to do next, I barely had much of an audience, and I think maybe only a few people kind of responded to the poll. And honestly, when the results came out that I was going to have to cover the Faerunian Pantheon, it was daunting. There's so many gods. Obviously, I knew it was going to take a long time. It has taken a long time. But I'm glad to kind of I'm on the other side of that. Again, it's not complete. I will be coming back if I'm getting ahead of myself. I like to think that every now and then I might kind of drop in, like, oh, here's the episode on Moander. Oh, here's the episode on Velsharoon. Here's the episode on LaRue. But I don't think I will do that for a good while, because I really want to get started on a new Pantheon. And my intentions for that is to, with a bigger audience now, my intentions are to put a poll out. I'm not 100% sure what that poll is going to look like, where it's going to be sourced from, where it's going to be hosted, is a better way of putting it. But I can tell you right now, I'm putting Pantheons on that poll that I want to cover. In the 5 that any of these 5 I would be happy to cover. So there's the Dwarven Pantheon, the Elven Pantheon, the Gnome Pantheon, the Orc Pantheon, or which is it? It's either going to be the Halfling Pantheon or the Draconic Pantheon. The Draconic Pantheon is a bit finicky, only because it's like, I don't want to speak out of turn here, and I'm going to speak out of turn, and people feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm going to talk about the Draconic Pantheon, it's pretty, like, most of the information for what I've kind of seen at a distance is it's kind of comes from like setting agnostic sources. It's not specific to the Forgotten Realms. Not that that's an issue. It's just if I did the Halfling Pantheon, for example, like, I know there's not a ton of information, but the information that's out there, at least there's a good amount of it is strictly based in the realms. So either the fifth option will either be the Halfling Pantheon or the Draconic Pantheon. We'll see. We'll make the decision when it comes up. But yeah, I'll leave you with that. I don't know what 2024 is going to have for me in the future. Hopefully, moving into a new Pantheon to cover. Episodes would probably be coming out quicker. Unless, like, I'm covering, like, for example, like, let's say, like, the Dwarven Pantheon got picked. The first episode for sure would be on Morden. Doing research for Morden would be a longer process, but like kind of every other subsequent Dwarven god after that would be much quicker. Just because when it comes to Morden, there's so much written about him, and that goes for pretty much all the like the heads of the various racial pantheons, Grumsh, Corlon, so on and so forth. So there's that. Anyways, I'll leave you all to the rest of your Monday. All the best for 2024. And hopefully, we'll have a cleric that'll last for multiple sessions. I won't say more than one session, because I said that for Eldon, and yes, he did last for more than one session. He lasted for 2 sessions. Anyways, take care, and that Asmodeus episode's coming.